we're going to do today is we are going to do lesson 9, analysing the language of advertisements in different media. Majority of this lesson you will do independently. You do not need too much guidance from me, but we are going to kind of look at the similarities and differences between advertisements. This lesson asks for 2 videos. The 2 videos that you will need are in this tutorial video. You don't need to email us and ask for links. They've all been included within this video here. Okay, these 3 advertisements were from last lesson and the lesson before that. So you've seen these quite a few times. I would like you to go through and answer question 1 on your own. So question 1, A, B, C. So you're looking at the 3 advertisements that are part of the Get in Touch with Your Healthy Side campaign, then answer the questions below. Which advertisement contains only a headline, subheadline, image, and logo? Which advertisement contains a narrative in images? Name 2 things that all 3 advertisements have in common. So go through and answer those ones. Once you've done that, I'm now going to play a video. So give it a pause this video if you need to, answer those questions, and then in a minute or very shortly, this video is going to play for you.
In this presentation, we will analyse the vocabulary choices in the Get in Touch with Your Healthy Side campaign. These were some of the language devices that we looked at previously. Do you remember what each one is? Read through these terms in the glossary if there are any that you have forgotten. This advertising campaign does not use many language devices to persuade the audience, as it is relying on the factual information to convince people to change their behaviour. Let's look at each part of the campaign to see how they have used carefully chosen vocabulary. According to Queensland Health, 80% of common infectious diseases are spread by hand. This is the headline that appears in all 3 advertisements in this campaign. So it seems obvious this is the most important fact they want to get across to people. Starting off with a statistic is a vocabulary choice that is designed to persuade the audience. 80% is a very large portion of people. If they chose one of the other facts to be the headline, it wouldn't have as much impact. For example, a headline that read, "Only 30% of people cover a cough or a sneeze with a tissue," doesn't pack as much of a punch. Spread by hand is an example of omitting words that make the text more compact and cohesive. This next advertisement has a lot more vocabulary to analyse, but again, they have used factual information to persuade, rather than any of the language devices we have previously looked at. The headline, however, "Germs can be quite a handful," is figurative language. It is an example of a pun and a metaphor. A pun is a play on words. There are 2 meanings of the word handful in this headline. Germs can be quite a handful can mean that the germs could be all over your hands. In other words, your hand is full of germs. A handful can also mean that something is a lot to deal with. So the headline could also mean that germs will give you a lot of problems. It is also a metaphor because they are saying that you can have a handful of germs. Can you really have a handful of germs? Germs are microscopic. You can't see them, so it's not possible to scoop them up in a handful. Now let's look at the modality in this advertisement. Remember that modality gives us the degree of certainty of something. Words with high modality, such as must, will, and definitely, show that something is really certain. Words with low modality like maybe, possibly, and might show that we aren't really certain of something. If you are trying to convince people to change their behaviour, you need to use highly modal words that show that there is certainty that their actions are harming them. So what highly modal words can we see? Actually, can you notice that they don't always use words with high modality? Look at the headline. For example, Germs can be quite a handful. They are only medium modality words. It would have more certainty if they had said, germs are a major handful. The second fact, some germs live for several days on surfaces, doesn't have very high modality, does it? The modality would increase if they had said, germs will live for a long time on surfaces. Why do you think they haven't increased the modality of these statements? The main reason is they need the information to be factual. If the modality is changed, the meaning can be changed too. Not all germs can live on surfaces, and some can only live for a few days. Increasing the modality would turn it into a false statement. Germs aren't a real problem for everybody, so you can't change the modality of the headline either. Finally, let's look at the cohesive devices used in this advertisement. Remember, cohesive devices are words and phrases that link ideas, such as repetition and omitting words. Words have been omitted that were not necessary to tighten the language, and words like hand and germs are repeated to identify the key ideas. The slogan for the campaign is, "Get in touch with your healthy side." It can be found on the larger poster and in the television advertisement. Touch is a clever way to describe how germs can be spread. Touching spreads disease. This is also a metaphor, because you can't actually touch your healthy side. Which side of you is healthy anyway? What this metaphor means is that you should find out how healthy you can be by following what they suggest in the advertisement. Now let's look at the vocabulary used in the television advertisement. The advertisement begins with a figurative language device, a rhetorical question that lets the audience know that they are about to learn something new. The narrator then goes on to list the factual information that they think the audience needs to hear. Each statement is presented as an item on a list, with conjunctions such as that, or that, and, used to link the different points together and make them cohesive. Due to copyright restrictions, written and spoken text from the Healthy Me, Healthy You hygiene advertisement cannot be listed or said here. Further examples of cohesion used in the text can be found in the television advertisement, which you can review in lessons 7 to 9.
Now the next portion of your lesson is asking you to watch the Healthy Me, Healthy You hygiene advertisement again. Okay, so in watching that, I would like you to pay particular attention to the way that the narrator uses conjunctions, so like linking words, to make the text cohesive. Also try to imagine how the advertisement would sound if those conjunctions or those cohesive ties were not there. All right, so that's what you're paying particular attention to. Think about how the narrator is tying all the ideas together. And if those things weren't there, how would the text be different?
Did you know that 80% of common infectious diseases are spread through our hands? That germs from a sneeze can travel over a metre? Or that only 30% of people cover a cough or sneeze with a tissue? And washing our hands? Only 1 in 3 people do enough of that. Get in touch with your healthy side. Visit health.qld.gov.au, making Queenslanders Australia's healthiest people. Authorised by the Queensland Government, Brisbane.
Okay, now that you've watched that video, question 4 is just asking for, it's essentially a recap on what we did in lesson 3, which was about language features. So in lesson 3, we highlighted very key language features that are used in advertisements quite often. So what you need to do here is use the word box and try to fill in and complete the definitions on each of the language features. I very strongly advise that if you can't recall what they are, go back to that lesson and rewatch the video, and even take notes on a notepad or in your English book if you've got that. Let's do the first one. I've already typed in negative, but Evaluative language, positive or negative language that judges the worth of something. For example, she is a lovely girl is using evaluative language to make a judgment about the girl. It's in a positive way, that example is. Noun and noun groups, a group of words telling who or what is involved in the sentence. It may include something and nouns linked together. For example, the tired, cranky toddler had a sleep. So if you think about what the example is, the tired, cranky toddler had a sleep. So if we know that toddler is the noun, the words that come before those are what type of words? We've got tired and cranky. Hopefully in your mind you're thinking, that's descriptive language, those must be adjectives. So it may include adjectives and nouns linked together. So those are the first two done for you. So go through and finish verb groups, adverbs, alliteration, simile, metaphor, personification, modality, and rhetorical question. Pause the video now and go. Okay, hopefully you've gone and you have completed that task. I'm going to very quickly run through the answers for the word bank activity. So make sure you stay in time with me. So evaluative language, negative is what goes there. In noun and noun groups, it's adjective. Verb and verb groups, a group of words built up around one or more verbs. Example, I have been practicing the piano. Adverbs and adverb groups, a group of words that modify verbs. They are called adverbs. For example, very softly. When alliteration, when the same sound is repeated at the beginning of a word, it is used in advertisements to create a pattern that is memorable. For example, tiny, tender, teddy, and sometimes can be a tongue twister. Simile, using the words as or like to make a comparison. Metaphor, a word or phrase that ordinarily describes one thing is used to describe another, thus making a comparison. Now, it's very easy to get similes and metaphors mixed up if you aren't sure what you're looking for. Now, a simile uses as or like to make a comparison. The key words are as or like. Metaphors won't use as or like. It will say one thing is something else. It's not saying it's like or similar to. It's saying it is. So, for example, she was as sly as a fox. See how there's that comparison there using as? And then a metaphor, life is a roller coaster. Okay, so while metaphor is comparing, it is still saying that that one thing is another thing. A simile uses like or as. Hopefully that hasn't confused you further. Personification, giving an object human or animal qualities. For example, the sun peaked above the horizon. So personification, a sun can't peak, we can peak over something, or an animal can peak, but the sun can't peak. But it's a beautiful way to describe the sun. Personification, already done that. Modality gives a degree of certainty about something. So words with high modality such as must, will, and definitely show that something is certain. And then you've got the other spectrums. Maybe, could, would, will, won't. Rhetorical questions are questions that are asked but don't really require an answer. So that fills up your word bank, all done and complete. Let's go to what the next task is asking of you. Question 5. Complete the following. Give one example of figurative language such as alliteration or metaphor that is used in the I Got You in the Get in Your Healthy Side campaign. Still did not say that one correct. Give me another go. Give one example of figurative language such as alliteration or metaphor that is used in the Get in Touch with Your Healthy Side campaign. So it could be either one of the 3 advertisements used. So figurative language could be any of those things from up above, any of these. So you're just going to find one example and write it in the box. B, give one example of a cohesive device that is used in the campaign. Can you find an example of repetition, replacing words with synonyms or omitting words. Because remember, those are the 3 ways that you can cause cohesion. So please pause the video now and do the activity, and then come back when you're done. Hopefully you've gone and done those activities. Okay, let's scroll on. So here's the germs can be quite a handful. We've looked at this advertisement before, so I'm just going to scroll on down. Choose 2 phrases from the previous still image advertisement and change them to high modality. So you are going to find one of these facts, and you're going to change them to high modality. So some germs live for several days on surfaces. Let's just choose that one for an example. Yeah, let's highlight that one. No, just ruined it. Okay, this one here. How can we change that from middle to low modality to high modality? We can probably look at the word some. You could say most germs live for several days on surfaces. That would possibly be a good option. Here, hands are best washed with soap and water for 10 seconds. You could say hands must be washed. So think those are really easy ways to change middle to low modality to high modality. Consider the word choices. Change something that has very little sense of urgency to something that is a definite, is a must. So do that for 2. Change 1 here and 1 here. Pause the video and go and do that activity. Explain why high modality wasn't used in the advertisement. Well, when you think about this advertisement and what it stands for, it's using facts. Okay, so these are generally things that we know. Some germs can live for several days on surfaces, but is that, if you say all germs live on several surfaces, live for several days on surfaces, and you change that to all germs, that can lead for that statement to be incorrect. Because if you change most of those facts to highly modal language, it's changing them to facts that could be incorrect. So that may be a reason why it is not used high modality. So here is the answer that I wrote. Feel free to write something very similar. It did this to me earlier. Apologies, guys. I don't know what's going on with it. Here we go. The advertisement is relying on information to be factual. If the modality is changed, the meaning can be changed too. Increasing the modality would make the statements false. Okay, you could say all germs live up to several days on surfaces, but is that accurate for all? Definitely not. So that would make it incorrect. So which one do you think this one is? First person, I, we, me, and us. This is definitely not first person. Second, you, your, yours. Third, he, she, they, it. I'm already seeing a you and a your in there because it's talking directly to you, directly to me, directly to the target audience. It is second person. Keep in mind, almost all advertisements use second person because they are trying to persuade you, us, me, the target audience, to do something or to believe something or to purchase something. So it's very important that they talk directly to their target audience. So keep in mind, second person is probably your best bet there. 9. Why do you think the advertisement decided to use this point of view? If you go back, I just gave you a beautiful reason. So pause, write that one down now. Question 10 on your own. You get the table, the 3 advertisements are at the top. You're just going to fill in the blank spaces. What is the language used? Is it factual? Is it figurative? Just go through and complete the table. I very strongly encourage you to rewatch lessons lessons preceding this one so that you have a very good grasp on language features and how they're used, why they're used before. And if that still doesn't clarify it, then make sure you email us so that we can explain any further. So till tomorrow, guys.